Today I am going to be covering the ninth chapter of the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, the edition with commentary by Trangu Rinpoche. The ninth chapter is titled Cultivation of Bodhichitta. And this is a very, very important topic in Buddhism. So as usual, Gampopa goes through in great detail all the different points relating to this. So he begins with the essence, and it's very simple. The essence of bodhicitta is the wish to accomplish the good of other beings, that it is compassion, this altruistic motivation. So this is the wish to accomplish Buddhahood, which is considered understanding or intelligence. And that means to avoid a limited or a restricted approach. So in order to accomplish this, we use the very best tools and methods available. And the other motivation is to benefit ourselves. But the important thing is to make sure that you're including all sentient beings in this to avoid this becoming selfish. And both motivations are mental. And on the other hand, even though it's mental, that this motivation is enough to transform all suffering into a great happiness. The next point is the classification. And here is a long list of 22 different similes. Bodhicitta is like this, it is like that. And it's divided up into different sections. So the first three relate to the path. And in this group here, the first is bodhicitta is like the earth, this earnest desire to accomplish Buddhahood. And it is like the earth because it is the beginning or the foundation. That the earth is the necessity for everything that happens on the earth, whether it be plants, sentient beings, weather, whatever, that it is all dependent on the earth. And so here it is like the earth because having this motivation is the beginning, the foundation for developing. And it is this strong interest in accomplishing the goal, the Buddhahood, complete enlightenment. It's important that it be earnest. It is essential, in fact, and you will not attain enlightenment without having this motivation of bodhicitta to want to be able to benefit all sentient beings to the greatest of your ability and to attain enlightenment for your own benefit. The second is that it's like gold. The general intention to accomplish Buddhahood is like gold. So in the beginning, to develop Bodhicitta, we need pure intention. We need this wish to bring all sentient beings to enlightenment and to become a Buddha ourselves. And so the gold analogy is because gold is pure. So we need to avoid negative attitudes, selfish motivation. They are useless, Trungpa Rinpoche says. On the other hand, this is difficult for us. But it's important at least to be aware of this necessity for having pure motivation. The third one here is about the moon, that it's compared to possessing altruistic thoughts. And so if we are wholeheartedly committed to liberating others from samsara, no matter what the hardships, it will happen. And most people, needless to say, have a difficult time with this. But we need to aspire to this. So these three are, he feels, related to the path of accumulation. This is in terms of the dividing the path into 5 paths. The accumulation is the first path, where we are accumulating methods, accumulating knowledge, accumulating practices, and so forth. So that's how he describes these first. The next is, it's like fire. Possessing earnest application is like fire. So here we have the actual action, study, reflection, meditation, and they increase the power of bodhicitta, that they, like fire, burn away negative states of mind. And he mentions hypocrisy and deceit in this section here. So then he goes on to the next one, the 5th, and these are included in the path of junction. And they are related to the 10 paramitas. And usually we talk about 6 paramitas, but there also is a system which has 4 others. And so these 4, well, let's just repeat all of them. The first paramita is generosity. The second is discipline, then patience, then diligence, meditative concentration, and the perfection of wisdom. After that, it becomes more subtle. The 7th is skillful means. The 8th is aspiration prayers. The 9th is spiritual power. And the 10th is primordial wisdom. And I will go into that in more detail when we come to that. But it's the difference between Shara and jhana, or Sharap and Yeshe. I'm confusing languages here, so I don't want to confuse you. Sharap and Yeshe. So number 5, simile number 5 is that possessing the perfection of generosity is like a treasure. That this perfection of generosity relieves suffering and brings happiness to others, because you are giving others things that will benefit from them. And on top of that, in our generosity, we accumulate merit, which benefits us. Just like we find in samsara, treasure beneficial, and we can do a lot of things with it. So generosity, giving things away, is continually giving others benefit and us benefit in the accumulation of merit. The next, possessing the perfection of moral ethics is like a mine where they mine jewels. And he talks about this, in my words, as being a feedback loop, that by practicing ethical standards, that it increases our bodhicitta commitment, and vice versa. They benefit each other. The Sanskrit word for moral ethics is shila, S-H-I-L-A, and it means coolness. It is freedom from the wounds of suffering, from problems, from difficulties, freedom from regret for one's actions. It also simplifies things. It makes decisions easier, because with self-discipline, a lot of choices become, we might say, no-brainers. It eliminates a lot of things that might be possible otherwise. So this freedom brings coolness, ease, and joy. It also, of course, dramatically reduces stress. And ethics, very simply, are avoiding actions of body, speech, and mind that are harmful to yourself, those that are harmful to others, and engaging in actions that are beneficial to yourself and beneficial to others. It's really quite simple. There's a long list. I'm not going to go into it, but that's what's he's talking about here. And like a jewel mine is that the more we practice it, the more benefit that we receive from it, and the more benefit others receive from it too, because we're not causing them problems and causing them harm. Possessing the perfection of patience is like an ocean. And again, practicing patience benefits our bodhicitta commitment, and bodhicitta commitment encourages us to practice patience. So the metaphor of the ocean is that the ocean has waves, but under the surface, it is unmoving. The Sanskrit word shanti means not agitated or not disturbed. And so we're not disturbed by thoughts of anger, fear, and intense desire, and so forth, that we're able to have these arise, face it, and not give in to them. That's this idea of being unmoved, like an ocean. The next is possessing the perfection of diligence, which is like a vajra. So a vajra is strong, it's solid, and diligence is too. It provides a lot of stability when obstacles and adverse conditions arise. And there is this element of joy and enthusiasm. Sometimes they say, enthusiastic joy or joyful enthusiasm. Here is a quote. Diligence means that when we are acting, we are not unhappy or under pressure. Rather, we do things spontaneously out of joy and pleasure in what we are doing. End quote. And needless to say, if we can take that attitude, even very difficult things become much easier just because of our change of how we're approaching it. What came to mind when I was preparing this talk was I was in Lhasa over 20 years ago and with a group of people, and we visited one of the main monasteries there. I really can't tell you which one it was, but one of the main monasteries there. And the Tibetan monasteries, as well as probably their houses too, have roofs that are flat. They have a slight slope to them so that the water will drain off, but they're basically just tamped earth on top of a wood frame. And they were repairing this roof on one of the buildings, and it was the local people that were doing this. And what it entailed was that this mixture probably had a lot of clay in it, and it was damp. It wasn't mud, but it was damp, so it could be pressed and formed and so forth. So some people would be bringing that up. Other people had tampers that they would use to tamp this down on top of the old roof. Other people would take this mixture as it was brought up and then spread it in front of the tampers. And so what they would do while they were doing this was to sing and dance. It became more of a celebration and fun than work. And I've seen Tibetans behave that way under other circumstances too, where they get the work done, but there is this really feeling of, well, why not enjoy this? And if we can take that into our daily lives and our practice, the practice ceases to be a burden. It becomes more of a joy to be able to practice, that we've come in contact with a very powerful spiritual path. We have good teachers, we receive good instructions. What a wonderful situation this is. The next simile is that possessing the perfection of meditative concentration is like a mountain. A mountain is stable, it's unshakable, it's firm. So meditative concentration makes our bodhicitta stable, strong, and unshakable. It allows us to avoid worldly distraction. There's this absence of a movement of the mind, a fickle monkey mutt. So the words that are associated with this, like a mountain, are stability, firmness, unshakable, strong. The next is possessing the perfection of wisdom is like medicine. That the practice of the perfection of wisdom will eliminate all faults, all negative aspects. Our positive qualities develop more quickly. So it is like medicine that cures the negativity. You might say the disease. Now here, wisdom is, as I mentioned earlier, the Tibetan word is sherap, Sherap, and this means the best knowledge. But this is knowledge that is learned. This is not innate, inherent knowledge. This is knowledge that is learned one way or another, whether it be through teachings, readings, through practice, and so forth. Trungpa Rinpoche describes it as a deep intelligence that brings peace and happiness to yourself and to others. Now, the next four, these are the paramitas 7 through 10, are describing this prajna or sherap becoming finer and finer, more discerning, more subtle. The first is the perfection of skillful means is like a spiritual master. Skillful means brings the accomplishing of our activities easily without difficulties. It means that we help others, but there aren't problems with the help that we give others because we've got skillful means. We've got wisdom that go along with our actions. Trungpa Rinpoche likes the term skill with means, which kind of gives a slightly different slant on this, that it means when you are engaging in an action of body and speech to benefit others, you combine skill with the means, and therefore the result is more skillful and has a better result. And the analogy with a spiritual master is that this skillful means or skill with means is compared to a virtuous friend that gives you guidance. The next is possessing the perfection of aspiration prayers is like a wish-fulfilling jewel. When the pure intentions are directed at something worthwhile, they can come true. He says that superficial wishes can't come true. Whereas wishing with pure intention means that we then go about doing things so that it can happen. That we practice virtue so our aspirations can happen. We don't just pray and have aspirations and so forth. May this happen, may that happen. But we then actually engage in activities that will bring about the results we are wishing for. The next is possessing the perfection of strength is like the sun. And this metaphor or simile is that the sun causes all kinds of things to happen. It causes plants to grow. It causes weather, clouds, and lightning, and on and on and on. It causes heat, and so on and so forth. And so as our understanding becomes great, our strength and abilities become great too. So this perfection of strength. As our bodhicitta becomes stronger, we can actually ripen and develop other beings. The next is possessing the perfection of primordial wisdom is like a melody. So now here is the distinction between the Sherab and Yeshe. The Sanskrit word is jhana, J-N-A-N-A. Quote, it is bright, lucid, and stable cognition. Yeshe is the form of recognition which is there from the very beginning. That is another quote from Prangpa Rinpoche. Other words for Yeshe are Buddha nature, original intelligence, primordial wisdom, realized intelligence, realized goodness. I'm not going to go on, but there are a lot of other words that refer to it. It can't be, you can't accumulate this type of wisdom. All you can do is uncover it or realize it. Another quote about this is that, well, he talks about a melody being a beautiful song that brings happiness. And so the realization of our primordial intelligence, our original intelligence, it means here, quote, the union of great qualities of primordial wisdom and bodhicitta, which brings happiness to others and to us. So that's why it is like a great melody. This then sums up the 10 paramitas, and they are related to the 10 bhumis, and I'm not going to go into that here. He does not go into it other than mention that. But the 10 bhumis are bodhisattva stages. So this is about the path. And when you reach this stage of the possessing the perfection of primordial wisdom, and it says possessing because all these others use the word possessing. It's important to point out that we have always possessed primordial wisdom. It has never been absent. We can't get it from anywhere else. It is a matter of uncovering it and recognizing it. So it's not like we didn't have it and now we possess it. It is now we are finally realizing it. So then he has a number of similes that are about the result of this recognition of our primordial wisdom. The first is possessing special clairvoyance accompanied by great wisdom. It's like a king. So with this primordial wisdom, there is clairvoyance and intuitive knowledge. And when that is combined with bodhicitta, it gives the person a great ability to really help others, just like a king has the ability to help others because of his power and position. The next, the accumulation of merit and wisdom is like a treasury. So about the accumulation of merit, this is a virtue that is practiced within a conceptual framework, and that has a pure motivation, that we accumulate tremendous amounts of merit that way. The accumulation of wisdom is, here he describes it as the accumulation of insight without any conceptual reference. So this comes from this realized form of wisdom, of knowledge. And these two types of accumulation produce endless positive results. Since it continues on into the future, there is no way to say that it will produce this much merit, this much wisdom, this much insight. It just constantly gives. The next, possessing the branches of enlightenment is like a highway. So the highway here is the Buddhist path, the path that all Buddhas take to attain enlightenment. And then by possessing this knowledge, these 10 paramitas, the motivation of a bodhicitta and so forth, that we have what we need. We have the branches and the main highway to enlightenment. The next is possessing compassion and special insight is like a conveyance. So compassion for all sentient beings is what compassion is referring to here, wanting all sentient beings without exception to be free of suffering. And insight is about the true nature of things, understanding the true nature of things, the way things are, their essence. And so it is a conveyance because if you possess these, you will go straight to Buddhahood. The next is possessing the power of complete recollection and confidence. And this is like a well. And so this is intellectual courage that comes from this great understanding, this great wisdom. And this well is one that will never run dry. So that is the simile there. Now, the above are short-term benefits, now are long-term benefits. Possessing the grove of Dharma is like an elegant sound that when you reach fruition, that the sound of Dharma is automatically made and heard. He uses the comparison of an echo, that the sound of Dharma is like a non-existent sound. Because, of course, it has no real inherent existence. The next one here, this is number 21 in the book, is possessing the path in one direction is like a river. And here, the activity of a Buddha is always flowing, and it's always flowing in one direction to benefit beings. And the final one is that possessing the Dharmakaya is like a cloud, that the activity spontaneously arises from the Dharmakaya to benefit all sentient beings, and it pervades everything. So it arises from the Dharmakaya, but then it manifests through the form kayas. Now, there are different levels here. First, Bodhicitta, that is accompanied by aspirations. Second, Bodhicitta, that is accompanied by pure, noble intentions. And Bodhicitta, that is the result of these first two. And the last level is Bodhicitta at the time of Buddhahood. So these are the stages that we kind of go through. You're having first aspirations, and then these pure, noble intentions. You get more serious about it. Then we actually start doing things as a result of these intentions and aspirations. And finally, we attain Buddhahood, and it's in full bloom. So then are the characteristics of Bodhicitta, ultimate and relative, that Bodhicitta is the mind of enlightenment. And both ultimate and relative Bodhicitta are the union of compassion and intelligence or understanding. He then talks about ultimate Bodhicitta, that you are free from all impurities, all qualities are present, realization is completely developed. He also says, and I'm sure these are Kranggu Rinpoche's words rather than Dampopa's, and that is that ultimate bodhicitta is synonymous with emptiness. But Trungpa Rinpoche says nothing fades away. Appearances do not disappear. It is merely that you see that they are interdependent and have no self-existence. So compassion is naturally present. Emptiness and compassion are inextricably intertwined, interdependent, if you like. This is the essence of the ultimate: emptiness, compassion, interdependence, compassion. You see things the way they are. And he uses the analogy of mistaking a rope for a snake. And when you look at it closer, you realize it's not a snake, it's a rope. And then, of course, your fear disappears, and you're not confused again in the future when you see a rope. And the way compassion arises is that you look around and you see that the world is full of people that think that rope is a snake. So this is how ultimate bodhicitta is described here in the book. That having realized ultimate bodhicitta, you see that things have no inherent existence, that they appear, and that the world is full of beings that think they do have inherent existence and go through all kinds of problems, difficulties, sufferings, hopes, fears, and so on, based on their confusion, thinking that this is real rather than just appearance. Relative bodhicitta is described as the willingness to accomplish Buddhahood for the benefit of all. And both relative bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta are causes for accomplishing Buddhahood. The next point, he talks about acquiring bodhicitta. And ultimate bodhicitta is acquired through practice, through meditating. And you might say it happens. It happens when the ultimate nature becomes manifest to us. It's not something that can be explained. Rinpoche uses the example of the teachings, and even the practices are like the finger pointing at the moon. And to really experience the ultimate, you have to quit looking at the finger and look at what the finger is pointing at. So relative bodhicitta, that is transmitted externally through, he uses symbols. I'm going to add communication. And symbols are a type of communication. So we make a commitment to try to develop that state of mind of bodhicitta, wanting to lead all sentient beings to enlightenment, to free all sentient beings from suffering ultimately. And so we make that commitment, and then we continue working on it and try to keep it from deteriorating. We work on it so that it increases and we reach Buddhahood. And what came to mind was a short prayer that is in our Chenrezig practice towards the very end. And so I'm going to read the translation that is used in the Chenrezig practice. May precious bodhicitta arise within those where it has not arisen. Where it has arisen, may it not decline. May it ever grow and flourish. So that's what's being expressed here, is that this is something that we work on, trying to develop a stronger commitment to this state of mind and to attain the fruit. Now, there are objectives of Bodhicitta. So that is that we're focused both on all sentient beings and focused on our own enlightenment. But we want to avoid self-centered motivation. So it's best to focus more on all sentient beings. There's a danger of becoming self-centered in our motivation, and this can lead to egotistic activity. You might say even forgetting about bodhicitta and neglecting other people. But there's no danger from having this altruistic attitude to free all beings from suffering. And now it's important to understand that, well, it's good to save beings from suffering for a day or a week or a month or perhaps even their whole lifetime. But when they die or you die, that's it. And what we're really interested is giving more permanent freedom from suffering with this motivation of a bodhicitta. So we want to bring permanent benefit more than temporary benefit to beings. And again, we want to be enlightened ourselves. So while we stress others, we don't ignore ourselves. We don't just quit practicing and go out and start working at a homeless shelter or a food kitchen or a rescue farm for abused farm animals and so on and so forth, that we have to include our practice. So there is a long list here of things in this chapter, but I'm going to continue till I finish. So the causes for arising of pure bodhicitta are four. One is to be aware of the benefits of that state of mind. Once we know the benefits of a pure bodhicitta, it will arise effortlessly in our minds. The second is a great faith and devotion for the state of Buddhahood, that we want to be like a Buddha. And that's really the definition of devotion, wanting to be like our teacher or be like the Buddha. So this great faith and devotion will really support this bodhicitta. The third is to consider the suffering of other beings, that compassion is necessary, and needless to say, there is a tremendous amount of suffering out in the world today, and so it's not hard to just contemplate the suffering in the world and to generate more compassion. And the fourth cause for pure bodhicitta to arise is having a spiritual friend or a teacher for assistance. Someone that you might say, lean on and go to when you need assistance, when your spirits are down, when you need clarification and so forth. So then he talks about where do you receive it? And this is talking about the Bodhisattva Vow specifically. So the most common way is in the presence of a Lama giving the Bodhisattva vow. And Ampopa says there are two other possibilities. One, if you cannot be in front of a Lama for the vow, you can make a representation in front of you of the Buddha, a statue, a picture, or whatever, and make the same commitment sincerely. And he said in extreme cases, you could just visualize the Buddha and then make the commitments. The next point is the ceremony. And it starts with a 7-branch prayer. And there's a short 7-branch prayer in Green Tara that we do. There are a number of 7-branch prayers in the practices that we do. But basically, a 7-branch prayer has homage to the Buddhas and great beings, and then making offerings, and then a confession. The next branch is rejoicing in the merit of others, then requesting the Buddhas to turn the wheel of Dharma to teach, then requesting that they do not pass into nirvana. And the 7th branch is in dedicating the merit of that you have created from doing the previous 6 branches. And then there are actual vows that you would take. I'm not going to go into them here. He did not go into them either. All of you, if you want to take Bodhisattva vows, have access to a Lama. I can give Bodhisattva vows too. I've been authorized by Rinpoche. But it's very simple. It is this promise that you will work to liberate all sentient beings and attain Buddhahood yourself. Let me see here. I've got Chenrezig here, and they have a very, very, very short version of the Bodhisattva vows here in the beginning of Chenrezig. And so I will read it. It's just 2 lines. Through the merit of accomplishing the 6 perfections, may I achieve awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. And that is a very simple summary of that Bodhisattva vow. So there are different ceremonies. Again, what I just read is not a ceremony, but it just kind of sums up the vows that you take. And it's important to appreciate the goodness of the ceremony and how precious it is to take the ceremony in the Bodhisattva vows. There are 2 forms. There's a short form and a long form. And I have taken both forms. Rinpoche, a number of years ago, gave the long form Bodhisattva vows out at KTD, and it was 2 full days. The short form just takes less than an hour. So there's a lot of benefit that he says, here are the benefits. A, you're entering the Mahayana path, that you have the intention to benefit others, and that anything you do will be fruitful if you keep this motivation and intention. And it's much greater having taken the vows than if you do the same thing without having taken the vows. And if you're motivated by self-interest only, you will get samsaric results. The second benefit is that this becomes the basis of all your Bodhisattva training. And any activity with pure motivation is considered excellent training. The third, all evil deeds will be uprooted. Gradually through this altruistic motivation, your selfish motivation becomes weaker and weaker, and then patterns and behavior based on selfish motivation become weaker and weaker and eventually are eliminated. Another benefit is that you have planted unsurpassable enlightenment. It isn't fully grown, but you've got the roots. Like you've transplanted a plant, and so that your positive motivation will grow, and so will our qualities, and we'll practice the paramitas, and so on and so forth. The benefit number 5 is that you will attain limitless merit, because due to your motivation, you will continue to engage in virtuous activities, and you will continue to accumulate merit. And so, since there's no way of knowing how much, it is considered, the merit is considered to be limitless. If it was solid, it would fill up the universe and there would be more left over. 6, all Buddhas will be pleased. They will see this and they will know that what you are doing is excellent and that this is the only way to protect beings from suffering. Benefit number 7 is that you will become useful to sentient beings, truly helpful. That the Buddha helped countless beings, and it started with his Bodhichitta vow many, many lifetimes before he was born as a prince in what is now Nepal. And so this pure motivation will bring limitless beings benefit. And the 8th is that you will quickly accomplish perfect enlightenment. You will escape both samsara and hinayana nirvana, or peace. Then there are the beneficial effects from cultivating action, bodhicitta. And the first one is that your own benefit will arise continuously. Goodness of your actions and conduct become like the flow of a great river. I'm using the terms momentum and inertia, that this will carry us through the day and bring benefit and happiness to ourselves. And the other benefit is that benefits will arise for others in various ways. And they will continue to arise for others until samsara is completely emptied. And I would like to say this, that it has happened to me many times, too numerous to mention, where someone will come up to me and say, you know, you said something that really struck me deeply. Thank you, thank you. And I go, what did I say? And the point being is that our actions and our words, even our body language, can affect people in ways that we are oblivious to. But with this bodhicitta motivation, it is guaranteed that we will have a beneficial effect on people, even if we are clueless. So then the uncountable benefits is the final section. And that is that all good qualities will arise, again, strengthen, and until we become a Buddha, and they are therefore uncountable. So to kind of sum this up, well, I guess not sum it up, there's a few more points here to make. This is a long chapter. I'm trying to get through it. Let's see, it might seem small, this aspiration, but it brings great results. Rangu Rinpoche talks about the Buddha taking vows in front of the previous Buddha many lifetimes ago. It's a good story to study and remember. And just taking it led to great results. He ended up sitting under the Bodhi tree and attaining enlightenment in a number of lifetimes after he took that vow. Rangu Rinpoche and Gampopa stress the power of pure motivation, about wanting to go beyond temporarily helping others, wanting to have a stronger influence, a more permanent influence on them. And so we need to practice and maintain our Bodhichitta motivation, especially during practice, but really throughout the whole day as we're going through our mundane lives. So then he talks about the disadvantages of losing this Bodhichitta motivation. And so diminishing that pure motivation decreases our ability to help others. It'll take much longer to attain enlightenment. Quote, we have to value it properly and keep it intact so that it can remain efficient. And then we have the cause for losing bodhicitta, and that is not wanting to help another being that needs help, feeling that it isn't worthwhile or that person isn't worthy of your help, or that animal even. And finally, the last point is the means of regaining bodhicitta once that it is lost. And this is a really important part. And that is, it's not an all or nothing. The analogy of a gold vase that is dropped, that it can be, the dent can be taken out by a skilled craftsman. And so our Bodhisattva vows are mental, and they can be easily restored. Rinpoche says that they are usually just dented and we can take out the dent. And so there's confession, purification, renewal, and so on and so forth. The Nyungne practice that many of you have done here or other places is an excellent practice for repairing our Bodhisattva vows. And with that, I am going to. The question is, how often should I renew my Bodhisattva vows? Is there a procedure for doing this? And so on and so forth. In a way, doing Nundro, there's a section in there where you say the Bodhisattva vows after you finish the prostrations. And during Nyungne, we do a lot of purification and renewal. Confessions are a way of removing those dents in our vows. And as I said, Rinpoche gave this long form Bodhisattva vows at KTD. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but the long form, it took 2 days. There was a lot of teaching in between, taking a few vows and then more teachings and then a break for lunch and then coming back. And it was very, very involved. And it's fine to, if you want to take Bodhisattva vows a second time or a third time. But the important thing is to do the purification. Another practice that is good is the 35 Buddha practice that's in Nyungne, the Three Skanda Sutra, because that's a confession. First of all, you rely on the 35 Buddhas, that you chant the names of these 35 Buddhas, then you do the confession, and then in the last part, you have these aspirations and dedicate the merit. So that's a really good confession practice too.